Hey guys, welcome back. So now we are getting back into Future State Nightwing and getting into part 2 with the Magistrate bringing the fight to Arkham. And with this happening, like both the Magistrate on one side and also Nightwing on the other, like they both had their interpretations on how this is going to play out. And both think that they've planned it well, but we'll see. But before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so jumping back in with Nightwing in Future State. In the first issue, we got the initial meeting between Tim Fox, the new Batman, who had made his way to Arkham to meet Nightwing in order to get his help at going against the Magistrate. But in addition to this, the Magistrate had also tracked Nightwing back to Arkham, which is also something that Nightwing was kind of counting on and waiting on. But with your Tim Fox Batman showing up, it really just threw an unexpected variable into the plans which Nightwing had already set. But with the Magistrate arriving here, the team that they had sent is led by Peacekeeper 6, who we had seen recently had just been promoted to her position by Peacekeeper 1 in the last issue. But also, when she arrives at Arkham, she brings Michael Johnson from Jack L. News, so that Gotham can see the Magistrate catch and take down Nightwing. Because at this point, the Magistrate, they've also paid off the media to paint this narrative to the public that Nightwing and his resistance, they're their enemy, and that they need to be taken down by any means necessary. And it's really clear that her intentions here are just to kill Nightwing on primetime television in order to make the Magistrate seem like the hero. And Nightwing figured more or less that this would be their motive, so along with him using Arkham as his hideout, he's also repurposed much of their security measures to keep inmates in and converted them into tools to more or less make Arkham his fortress. And the first thing he does to get this started is he hits Peacekeeper 6 with the EMP, and with doing this he takes out the news cameras, the tanks and the cybers, they all have to reboot, and this way it levels the playing field, but there's still like this small window, because as soon as these tanks and these cybers go through their boot cycle and they power back up, like it's on again. But right after Nightwing triggers the EMP, Tim's then like, okay cool, what's next? And Dick's just like, I'll tell you what's next, you leaving. Because once again, Nightwing has a plan in place why he wanted the Magistrate to come to him, and he didn't exactly draw this out with the surprise Batman popping up. And even at this point, like Dick doesn't know Tim's identity as the new Batman. And even though Dick did capture Tim, he also told him in the last issue like he didn't peep under the mask because he values privacy. And I'm pretty sure at this point it's part of the masked resistance code of honor, if there is such a thing. But it's here where Tim makes a good point, because he says like as Batman, like Batman decides who he gets to help. And on top of that, he came here to join the resistance while also getting their help to take down the Magistrate. So it's like in this moment, like what better way is there for Tim to prove his worth and take the fight to the Magistrate than in this moment now by helping Nightwing. And when Nightwing hears this, he's more or less just like, alright, cool. Because at this point, for one, there's really not a whole lot of time to argue about this. So either way, whatever decision they decide to make, they've got to make their move now. But then also, because of the EMP, they really just have like the Magistrate agents to worry about. Cybers are down for now, tanks are down for now, so at this point it's just them two versus a ton of mercenaries with guns, which then results in a number of stealth takedowns in addition to your good old-fashioned bad guy butt kicking. And I'm pretty sure throughout this process that Tim broke somebody's clavicle, but Magistrate insurance ought to cover it, so he'll be alright. But then after taking down one of these mercenaries, Nightwing then asks one of them like, what were your exact orders? And the dude tells him like, shoot to kill. And Nightwing's like, even if we surrendered? And the dude lets him know like, under any conditions. And initially like Tim tells Nightwing these questions are a bit unnecessary, but when more Magistrate mercs show up, Dick just lets Tim know that he has his reasons and he'll fill him in on the rest later. But also at this point, they're in a bit of trouble because the tanks are back online. And as soon as Peacekeeper 6 gets this news, she orders for them to fire missiles, and the dude telling her is more or less like, Saya, the troops, they're still inside. But she's like, I don't care, just do it. And she does it in a very endgame type of fashion. But with doing this, one, she doesn't care about the lower tier mercs, like to her they're all disposable, and for her, like in any situation, the target is the top priority, even at the cost of her men's lives. But also, like with raining fire down on Arkham, her plan is just to level the place and then send in the cybers, now that they're back online, and have them go through the rubble and just pull out Nightwing's body. And at this time, Peacekeeper is about to give the order to fire again. But before you know it, Peacekeeper 6 is then kissed by a batarang on the face. And immediately when we see this happen, it was Barbara Gordon, who, as we know, like Barbara Gordon doesn't miss. And when she catches the batarang, she's just looking at Peacekeeper 6 like, yeah, I could have killed you. But rather than killing her, she just wanted to get her attention to, one, stop her from firing again, but also to let her know that the mass resistance had arrived. But I think to them, they just go by the resistance. And it's more so the Magistrate Magistrate, who calls them the air quotes masked resistance. But amongst this team, who for the most part we saw in the last issue, but amongst this team, like from left to right, you got Huntress, Cassandra Cain Batgirl, Talia al Ghul, Oracle, Two-Face with the two guns, Robin, Batwoman, and Man-Bat. But with everybody showing up here, like, this wasn't part of Nightwing's plan, because with what he had planned and set up to take the fight to Magistrate, it was very high risk and he didn't want to take the chance of losing anyone else, and because of that, his plan was pretty much just to keep everyone at a distance. So when he sees that everyone has showed up outside, he's kind of like, no, this is not at all like what I had planned. But then it's here where Tim Fox lets him know, like, he's the one who called for the resistance to show up. And he also lets Nightwing know, like, I get what you're trying to do here, but much like Nightwing had said that Gotham needs Batman, the heroes very much need Nightwing, and it's for that reason that Tim didn't want to take a chance. So after things had escalated, he hacked Nightwing's computers and he called for the cavalry. But soon after, like outside while the resistance is fighting off the Magistrate, but then it's here where Nightwing then breaks out with this new car that's really giving me like Robert Pattinson Batmobile vibes. Except in this case with a splash of Dodge Dynasty and the Nightwing logo on the hood. And I mean, like, just from my perspective, it's a fair blend of all that. But when this happens, Peacekeeper 6 sees them taking off and she immediately calls for her car so she can go after them. But with them leaving, like in this moment, like Tim takes the time to tell Nightwing that he more or less had to call for backup because he didn't want the resistance to lose Nightwing like they had lost Batman. And just as a reminder, this still takes place in 2025 where pretty much everyone believes Batman to be dead, and also Peacekeeper 6 has some association with killing Batman, supposedly. But also it's here where Dick lets Tim know like he was right for calling in the others, because he admits that he was being too overprotective of the other heroes by trying to keep them out of it, and very much for the same reason, to keep them from getting killed. But then it's also in this moment where Tim asks like, did he make the cut? Like if Nightwing's gonna allow him to be part of the resistance. And Nightwing tells him like, well, you're not out. And Tim's kind of relieved because he thought that was gonna be Nightwing's revenge for Tim calling in backup and kind of sending Nightwing's plan sideways. But then this whole conversation is blindsided by Peacekeeper 6, who blitzed them at the intersection, totally messing up the Night Dynasty mobile, which then sends Tim and Dick tumbling into a construction site. But also like after doing this, when Peacekeeper 6 gets out of her car, which is very much a Batmobile within its own right, with the Magistrate using technologies from a number of companies in order to enhance their artillery, but when she approaches them, we also see that she has these cybernetic enhanced arms that Nightwing tells the new Batman to look out for because one of these punches just might kill you. But when she shows up here and she sees that these two are working together, because she knew about the new Batman, and she also knows that this Batman isn't Bruce Wayne. But when she attacks him, she pretty much tells on herself when Tim calls her out for killing Sarah Dowell, which was like the 10-year-old kid that Tim had saved and he had believed that he had taken home safely, only for her later to be abducted by the Magistrate. But Peacekeeper 6 tells him that he doomed Sarah by saving her, and with her getting involved, Peacekeeper 6 gave the order to have Sarah killed, and after the fact calling it a necessary sacrifice, which just proves Tim's theory right with him fearing the worst that happened to Sarah. But after this, Nightwing then whops her in the back of the head with one of his Eskrima sticks, and immediately after he then calls her out by her government name, Elizabeth Marcus. And prior to this point, like, we know that Nightwing had done his research on her, but then it's here where he goes a bit deeper, because he lets her know, like, regardless of her history and her records being erased, which was probably done by Peacekeeper 1, but like he lets her know that he knows her history, because both of her parents were brutally murdered when she was 14 years old by an attacker in a purple suit with a laugh from hell, who likely was the Joker. And Dick lets her know, like, he knows what that feels like to watch your family die. And because of this, like, in a number of ways, Peacekeeper 6 is more relatable to these vigilantes than she would like to admit, but none of this really persuades her or brings her towards the resistance, because from her perspective, she views the heroes and the villains all from the same group, and her belief is that they all gotta be taken out. But in this fight with Nightwing, she catches him with a backhand, but fortunately enough, Tim was there, because he then jumped in like kind of like the double takedown from back in the Arkham games. And man, I miss those games. Like, I used to go in, especially Arkham Knight, finding all the Riddler trophies. Like, at the time, you couldn't tell me I wasn't actually Batman. But in this case, like, it's here where we find out what Nightwing's plan was all along. And initially, like, when Peacekeeper 6 is taken down, she's like, okay, go ahead and kill me. I know you want to. But Nightwing is of course like, no, because that would then make her a martyr. But instead, it's here we get the details of Nightwing's plan and the reasoning behind these interrogations and the confessions, like why that was so important. because all this time he had been using these stealth drones, much like what we had seen back at Arkham when he was interrogating like the lower tier mercenaries and getting them to confess that they came in with shoot to kill orders, regardless if Nightwing had surrendered or not. But in addition to that, he also has Elizabeth Marcus' history back on record, as well as her confession for ordering the kill on 10-year-old Sarah Dowell. And because of that, Nightwing is like, yeah, I got all this on tape and I'm finna upload it, so make sure you got notifications turned on. Because everybody's about to know the truth about the Magistrate from here going forward. Because this way, with just uploading it to the internet, it bypasses all the media and all of their storylines which have been paid for and fabricated, and this way the world gets to know the truth, which Nightwing also had redundancies for. So if at any point he was killed in the process of trying to execute this plan, the information he had already collected, it would have then immediately just went live. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below so you can go to patreon.com/Dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.